Hey everybody, it's AJ from Disney Food Blog, and today we're going to talk about some things that aren't as good at Disney World as they used to be. But don't worry, I know you think I'm just going to be complaining the whole time, but I promise I won't. Well, we're talking about a few things that aren't as good as they used to be. We're going to tell you how to make them still okay, or how to make them a little bit better. And also, we're going to share with you a few things that we think are even better at Disney World than they ever have been. So don't worry, this won't be a super downer video. It'll be good information for you as you head to Walt Disney World. Here we go. First up, I'm going to talk about that carrot cake cookie. This was one of my favorite snacks in Walt Disney World, and it is at Hollywood Studios. For a long time, they had it at Writer's Stop and Sweet Spells. Both of those locations are gone now. They no longer exist, but they have moved the carrot cake cookie over to Trolley Car Cafe. So the reason why it's not as good as it used to be is because they've made the cake part a little bit thicker. So now you've got two big chunks of cake instead of thinner sort of cookie width cakes on either side of this basically whoopie pie. So it's carrot cake on either side with cream cheese frosting in the middle. This isn't as good because there's a lot more cake and not as much frosting, or if there is as much frosting, it feels like there's not as much because there's so much cake now. That said, it's still a decent treat. It's still pretty good. If you aren't up for the new version, don't worry, because over there at Trolley Car Cafe, there's still lots of great stuff. We always recommend that chocolate peanut butter crunch cupcake, formerly the Butterfinger cupcake, of course. That one's still really, really good. I love the Napoleon here. There are plenty of good treats here at Trolley Car. So even if you're not up for the carrot cake cookie, which honestly, I gotta say, I've had the new one. It's not as great as the old one because the ratio of cake to frosting is wrong, but it's still pretty good for, as far as snacks go in Disney World. I still really like it. So not as good, but still not bad. Next thing that's not as good as it used to be, the Disney off-season. Those of you who were going 10 years ago, maybe at the height of the financial crisis here in the United States, it was, I gotta say, it was a lot better at Disney World because there weren't as many people, not as many people were going. Well, Disney has created lots of incentives over the past 10 years, and now it seems like there are very few off-seasons at Disney World. They extended the Food and Wine Festival into the summer, so that took care of the late summer lull. And the Food and Wine Festival itself covers a lot of the previously less crowded time frames. Christmas has sort of expanded to the whole months of November and December. And so while it's not as bad as it is during Christmas week, it's still not super uncrowded the rest of the time. So Disney's done a good job bringing in festivals and making sure that there are heads in beds for the majority of the year. So there are now longer wait times, there's bigger crowds, and with all of the new parks and new rides opening, there's even more people going to Walt Disney World. But that said, remember, you still got the awesome My Disney Experience system on your phone, so you can make your fast passes ahead of time. You've got mobile order now, so that really cuts down on wait times and lines at the counter service restaurants. Make your advanced dining reservations right from your phone and change them around on your phone. So there are definitely ways to deal with and manage the fact that the Disney off-season isn't as off as it used to be. It's still pretty crowded there most of the year, but be sure to use your fast pass options, your mobile order options to kind of cut down on your lines and your wait time. Something I really, really miss during the holiday season is the Lights of Winter at Epcot. I think that was an amazing show and display over there in Future World, and now it's gone. But what's great is that Disney has introduced the Festival of the Holidays, which is all around Epcot, and there's lots of food booths, and there's lots of really great shows and cultural interpreters all around the World Showcase for the holiday season. So while I miss Lights of Winter, and I really wish there was a really great light show in Epcot, I am glad that we do have such a cool festival and so many great events going on in Epcot for the holidays. Next up, flying fish. I know a lot of you disagree with me who are diehard signature dining fans in Walt Disney World. Flying Fish closed for refurbishment. This is a restaurant on Disney World's boardwalk, and it closed for refurbishment a couple of years ago. Prior to that refurbishment, the chef in charge was Tim Keating, and he is just an incredible chef with an incredible management style and personality, and he did a really good job with his team there at Flying Fish and really made that restaurant feel more like a a family than a cold signature restaurant. Well, Tim Keating moved on. He's now working for a different company, though he's also in charge of a few restaurants at Disney still. But he passed the baton and Flying Fish reopened, and it just doesn't have the same flair and style and panache that I think it used to have. It's a lot colder feeling, and the food just doesn't seem to be as good. So this one, maybe I am complaining just a little bit. This was my favorite restaurant in Walt Disney World, and now it's not, and I do miss the old Flying Fish. That said, there's still lots of great restaurants to eat at Disney World. When Flying Fish, closed and reopened, Morimoto Asia opened over there in Disney Springs, and that's one of my favorite restaurants right now over there. We got tons of new restaurants in Disney Springs to try, lots of new signature options and regular lower cost options too that are still delivering on the food quality front. So there's lots more restaurants to try, even though Flying Fish, my favorite former restaurant, is no longer delivering at the scale that I was used to or that I personally enjoyed. But lots to enjoy outside of the boardwalk as well. All right, going back to the holiday season, Hollywood Studios at Christmas. Oh my goodness, you guys remember, I know lots of you remember the Osborne lights, the Osborne family spectacle of lights, which of course Mr. Osborne and his family donated all of these lights to Walt Disney World when they basically got told by their neighborhood they couldn't put that many lights up anymore. I think that's generally how it went. And so they went up all over Hollywood Studios' Streets of America section. This was an amazing light show, so much fun to attend, so much fun to see every year. And that went away a couple of years ago. No more Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights. And they have introduced instead Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam and the Flurry of Fun, which are projection shows on the Chinese Theater and Tower of Terror. Now these are fine, they're okay, but they're certainly not excellent. So I'm really looking forward to finding out what's going to happen as far as the holidays are concerned over there in Toy Story Land and of course in Galaxy's Edge and Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge in 2019. So we'll see new holiday fun in Toy Story Land this Christmas time, and then next year, hopefully, Galaxy's Edge will be open just in time for Christmas. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if Star Wars is gonna get decorated for Christmas or not. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. So even though my favorite Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights is gone, there's probably lots coming to Hollywood Studios this winter and next winter for the holidays. Okay, next thing that's not as good as it used to be, Journey into Imagination. This ride, when I was a kid and I went to Epcot, this was the best ride ever. I really can't tell you specifics of why it's not as good as it used to be. The Dream Finder doesn't feature as prominently, of course, and things have just changed a little bit with that ride, a little bit too much, so it doesn't really draw in the crowds. It doesn't really have the nostalgia that it used to have for those of us that loved Epcot in 1982. That said, I guess the bright side on this one is that it's a lot easier to get onto this ride because there's really never a line. So now, when we used to wait for this line, it was all outside queues, and it was in the heat of spring break or whenever you were there in Disney World. It was a horrible wait, and now you can get on it whenever you want, so you can see your buddy Figment, the little dragon, anytime you want, because there's really never a line for this ride. So while we miss the old version, it is nice to be able to go see Figment whenever we want. Next thing that I'm really starting to miss is the free parking at the resorts. This is a super bummer. We did a whole video on this a couple of months ago when they changed the policy where now if you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort, you have to pay for parking, which had never been the case before. So that's really unfortunate, and you're seeing those parking costs are substantial. A few nights parking at those resorts could be an actual extra night at the resort. So it's pretty serious, and we really think that's unfortunate. That said, now is the time to think about if it makes sense to bring your personal car or if you just want to take minivans around or stick with Disney transportation. Don't forget, they're going to be opening that Skyliner very soon, and that will take guests between several resorts that never really had those external transportation options to the parks, directly to the parks. Of course, they had buses to the parks, but you could never take a boat or a monorail or anything like that. And several of those resorts will have gondola access, now Skyliner access, directly to theme parks. So I think that'll be really cool. So I'm glad that they're adding some new public transportation options, but it still is unfortunate that we have to pay extra for parking if we bring our own cars. The refillable mugs. A lot of us remember way back in the day when you'd stay at a Disney resort and you'd get a mug that was themed to that resort specifically. So if you stayed at Wilderness Lodge, you'd get a Wilderness Lodge mug. If you stayed at Port Orleans Riverside, you'd get a Riverside mug. Now all the mugs are exactly the same and they're on a rapid fill policy, which means you can only fill them up so many times and you have to wait a certain amount of time before refilling them again. There's a lot more structure and there's a lot more strict rules associated with the refillable mug policy now that it's part of the Disney dining plan, and I do miss those old mugs that you could collect each one as you stayed at those resorts. And those mugs, FYI, were also refillable forever, and that doesn't work anymore. They used to sell those mugs and say that they were refillable forever, and they're not anymore. So that's unfortunate. But I do miss those older mugs where you really wanted to stay at all the different resorts so you could get all the different resort mugs. And finally, something that I think isn't as good as it used to be is the lines. The lines have gotten a lot longer because there's no off-season anymore, because there's more people going to Disney World and Disney has really incentivized people to get to Disney World. The crowds and the lines are a lot bigger and longer. That said, I love that they've created queue lines with activities in them for kids and even for adults. The Peter Pan queue line is phenomenal right now, and I think I would actually choose to go through the queue line instead of getting a fast pass because it's so much fun to play in that queue. And over at Dumbo, at Mine Train, they all have really fun activities to do while you're in line. Winnie the Pooh has fun ones too. They've made a lot of efforts to make the queue lines less boring and more innovative, imaginative, and fun than they ever have been before. So you're actually having a good time while you're waiting, which is great. Okay, so now that we've kind of explained some changes that Disney's made that we're not so crazy about, hopefully we've given you some silver linings on those though, and given you some tips for how to get around those things that are not quite as good as they used to be. We've got a couple of things we want to let you know that we think are much better at Disney World too. First up, Disney Springs. Obviously, Disney Springs is better than Downtown Disney ever was. I'm so excited with how this came out. I know that they sort of went back and forth several times. There were many times that plans were greenlit and then the whole thing fell apart and they had to start all over again. Disney Springs is a masterpiece. Well done, Disney, for moving from Downtown Disney to Disney Springs. Of course, we do miss the Adventurers Club. Oh, that's something I should probably put on my list of things that aren't as good, right? I do miss the Adventurers Club very, very much, but I do like Disney Springs. And now here's one that might be a little bit controversial. You can get alcoholic beverages at all the Disney parks right now. This is something that some of you may think is a negative change, and some of you may think this is a positive change. So let us know in the comments. What do you think? Do you like that you can get alcoholic beverages in the Magic Kingdom and at all the parks right now? Or would you prefer if Magic Kingdom was still a dry park? Let us know in the comments. Another change that I love is I really feel like the food options have gotten much, much, much better in Walt Disney World over the past 10 or 20 years. Back when I was first coming to Disney World, food really wasn't a focus of Disney's. They had some great restaurants, of course, but they didn't promote food the way that they do now. And of course, when you're promoting something, you make sure it's a little bit better and a little bit plussed up than you had before. And so the variety is completely expanded. The sustainability of their sourcing, I think, has been impacted greatly. You have a lot more fresh food, a lot more fresh fruit and vegetables in the parks, by far more than even just a few years ago. You're seeing that much more often. So there's a lot more healthy options, and they're really focused on people who have special diets and making sure that it's easy for them to eat in Disney World. So I've seen a lot of improvements in the food offerings, the quality, the value, and the variety of menus in Walt Disney World. Another thing I love the Magic Band system and the My Disney Experience app and system. I love that you can make all of your reservations on the app. You can make them all online. You can check into your hotel without ever going to the check-in desk and literally walk straight from your car or your Magical Express bus right to your room without even having to stop at the check-in desk. I think that's really great. And let's not forget one more thing that's much better in the parks right now, the coffee. If you guys remember back in the Nescafe days when coffee was just a disaster in Walt Disney World, and now it's really, really good. You've got your Joffrey's coffee, you've got your Starbucks coffee, so you have brand name stuff, good stuff that people really like and enjoy in the parks now. I remember 10 years ago, coffee at Disney World was a joke, and now there's plenty of great places to get good coffee, so that's awesome. So hopefully this has been fun. I wanted to give you a few things that are definitely worse at Disney World, but have a few silver linings, and a couple of things that I think have actually gotten a lot better at Disney World as well. So let us know in the comments, what do you think's gotten worse or better in Disney World? We can't wait to hear from you. We love to see what you have to say, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like these kinds of videos. We'd love to share more with you. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.